there, YouTube. I'm back again today for another episode of a new segment I'm calling Bauer's Polls. And these are going to be polls that I put up and I have people answer. And every single one of these polls I think will be very useful potentially to you if you ever decide to design a Kickstarter page or design a board game yourself. And plus they're just interesting polls to know how people buy and shop and play board games. So let's get right down to it. So first thing we got here from 3 days ago. If possible, would you prefer the price of a Kickstarter project be featured on the main image before you even enter the Kickstarter page? So essentially, when you're scrolling through things, deciding on what you want to look at, do you like when the price is out there? Because I think that's a great thing to do, especially if you have a reasonable price. And we see 55% of people say yes, and only 12% say no, and 33% are indifferent. That tells me that needs to be the industry standard right there. You know, granted, this is a small sample size, only 153 votes, but that is still very convincing. Only 12% of people are like, no, I don't like that. So let's check out the comments, see if we can dig a little bit deeper. If they have like 5 different tiers, then it's probably pointless. Yeah, that makes sense. Would just be a race to the bottom of the cheapest price. Only thing you care about generally is core, gameplay, all-in, and whale all-in. Which do they advertise? Probably the core. Race to the bottom would shift more stuff from core to the all-in tiers. I like it. Oh, I already did it. I'm going to heart that. Maybe a starting at price wouldn't be too bad as well. And I think that idea is actually excellent. And so I said I'm going to steal that because I do think it's a spectacular idea. Starting at. So if you have the whale and you have the all-in and then you have the gameplay, you just start with the core set. You just start with the price of the core set. Starting at. I really like that. All right, so next. At what price point, when purchasing a product on Kickstarter or GameFound, do you start really doing some research on buying it? For instance, the video wowed you and the game is $20. Do you insta-back? What about at $50, etc.? So 56% of people say never just insta-back. Video doesn't sway. I mean, and that makes sense. You know, how many times have people been burnt on Kickstarter? And I imagine that would actually be a much lower percentage, say 5 years ago. You know, so I never just back 56%. Anything higher than $25. So 6% of people did that. So what that means is that 44% of people are willing to spend around $25 or below just being wowed by that video. So that's nearly half. And that's why I think it's so important to have your price early and to just really make that a video that just grips people and just captures them. So anything higher than $50 was at 20%. So 38% of people are willing, you know, $50 is where I start to really do some research. Anything then higher than 100, we got 8%. And then I insta-back whatever I want. The 10%, good for you. You are winning at life if you can just throw money, especially on Kickstarter like that. So let's see. $100 is around €80, and that's just super disposable income for me. Good for you, Tim. Also, I tend to fragment my backs, so for everything over $100, I normally just get the core game and upgrade later to all-in. 2 smaller chunks of money gives me more wiggle room during busy Kickstarter months, and yeah, you can kind of do that sort of stuff all in the back end now. I would say that I normally spend around $300 to $350 per month on Kickstarter and or GameFound, so thank you so much for sharing that. I love seeing how people shop on Kickstarter. I just find it so fascinating. Instaback and interest, then research. I love the hype. And I like to buy into that, but you can't let that blind you. And so that is actually a very common one as well that I see a lot of people do. And what they'll do is they'll back it for $1, and then they'll wait until the very end to decide if they're going to bump up or not. And so at the end of a campaign, you'll see quite a lot of people have a $1 pledge. And so that's what they do. So I think that's very frequent in our hobby. So on average, how often do you click on Kickstarter creators' About Me section? Follow-up question. Does that percentage change when you are in different areas, video games, board games, movies, music, text, products design? Because product design, let me tell you, it's a wild, wild west Kickstarter. So never. 36% of people just absolutely never click on that, which it is what it is. I find that very interesting. 1 to 20% of the time, so 1 out of every 5 times, somewhere in there. 33% do around that, so 1 out of every 3 people. And then 21 to 50% of the time, 15%, and then to 100%, so only 4% of the people do it all the time. Very interesting. And I wonder if that number is going to steadily increase as well as we have more big projects that just don't succeed. I don't know. I never trust what one says about themselves. I feel sad because I only noticed this in 3 months and I didn't get back to the project for the name and creds. I don't know what that means. I put never, but I, as of now, only back products that I expect to be reliable. You know what? That's fair. Depends on if I want to contact them or not. Usually that's where they have the contact info. Yes, actually, yeah, that's a great point as well. I've never even used the Kickstarter website, so I have no idea what it even looks like. Well, thank you so much still, Peanut, because you just tickled my YouTube algorithms, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you. All right. So interesting. Gun to your head, what weight tabletop board games are your favorite? In the overwhelming majority, 2 out of every 3 people, medium weight game. That seems about right. That really does. I feel like when you first get into the hobby, a lot of people in the gateway games / lighter games, but then you get into the medium weight stuff, like the 90-minute, 2-hour sort of thing. Just burnt myself. I don't think I consider myself heavyweight. Or I think I consider myself a heavyweight. I love Dune, TI4, my favorite game. Love TI4. Heroes of Land, Airs, and Sea, and Kingdom Death Monster, but I don't, for example, like Mage Knight, so maybe it's just the type of game. Interesting. And I know this is a really hard one to say, because most people don't just like one specific type of game. Most people, I feel like, are omni-gamers. Maybe with a couple exceptions here and there. I voted midweight. Worth noting, there's almost no distinction between family weight and light, so we should probably add those categories to get the final result. Yeah, this one's really hard to read. I should have worded things better. This is for sure relative to what each person has experienced in games. For instance, I am no doubt considered to be a heavy gamer by liking things like TI4, Cloudspire, and Anachrony, which I think most would consider heavy. However, I also love war games, so for me, oh yeah, war games, oh man, that's where I have a lot of issues with the heaviness, and I typically do not. However, I also love war games, so for me, things like Advanced Squad Leader and Imperium Romanum are what I would consider heavy, and something like TI4 is way lighter. That said, I have more fun and time for playing things like TI4 and Cloudspire than a long ASL or meta war game session, so I consider myself a medium weight gamer. All right. My mid is your heavy is their family game, and yes, Sentinels of the Multiverse. Okay, Mage Knight. Okay. Just naming favorite games. All right. And so, yeah, that was not the best poll there. When you see a short Kickstarter, 10 days or less, I'm more excited to check it out. Only 10% of people. I'm less excited to check it out. 30% of people. And then I'm average amount excited to check it out. Sitting at 59%. So that's actually really interesting. People are less excited to check out the shorter campaigns, which is surprising because the whole point of a shorter campaign is to just kind of cram everything into it and make it exciting, make it an event, make it a spectacle. You know, come and go, come see the circus. You got to get in on this in a short period. Apparently, most people don't like that. Well, I should say most people. I should not say most people. I'm saying most people who actually care one way or another do not like that. 30% to 10%. Really interesting to me there. But I guess it kind of could be connected to that old buying habit we talked about. Not old, but the buying habit we talked about up there, where backing a dollar and then deciding towards the end of the campaign if you're going to back. And in a 10-day campaign, maybe you're more afraid you're going to forget about it. Because I definitely could see myself forgetting about that and being like, oh, shoot. I don't know. It's interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Where do you primarily play tabletop games? So your home overwhelmingly crushed everything else. Okay, that makes sense. On my phone, tablet, 2%. Online via computer, 4%. So still physical in-person crushing. As a board game consumer, which do you think would be easier to do? Convert a solo game into a multiplayer game. So, for instance, convert a multiplayer game into a solo game or equal difficulty. Most people think it's easier to convert a multiplayer game solo. Interesting. I would think it would be converting a solo game multiplayer. All right, video idea. Oh, I already did this one. This is about future thing. Ignore that one. At what age did you start playing hobby board games? So 0 to 12, 18%, 13 to 24, 39%. So like the teenage, college years, early 20s, that makes sense. You know, you're really open to explore different things and try different things out because you maybe don't have kids. Like I remember before I had kids, you know, I was in a low budget movie. I was doing this and I was trying that. And then when you have kids, it's just, life changes. 25 to 36, 29%. So still overwhelmingly here. 37 to 48, 48 plus. And kudos to you 3% for dipping your toes into something different. And hopefully it's paying off. That's awesome right there. All right. Generally, what aspect of board game should it be an S? Most influence your decisions to buy it. Ooh, what aspect of a board game no, it shouldn't be an S. So, mechanisms, deck building, area control, trick taking. So yes, the actual what the game is, how you play the game is 50% though. I'm kind of shocked that it's that low because, okay. Interesting. That's why I love seeing this. So the second place one is components/art. So 1 out of every 5 people almost, the components and art are the most important the most important thing when they buy it. That is just absolutely fascinating to me as a not art person. Like, art generally doesn't sway me one way or another on a game. I can compliment art. I say, oh, this art was great. But it would never make me think that a game was better than it was. But that's crazy. That's awesome. I mean, good for you. I don't know if it's good. That's just it just blew my mind. 1 out of every 5 people. Wow. Okay, so designer of the game, the person who created it, 4%. So that's 1 out of every 20. Previous positive experience with the game beforehand. Try before you buy. And hype around the game. Oh, that was actually number 2. So hype around the game and review. So 1 out of every 5 people base it on artwork, and 1 out of every 5 people base it on media. That is... Or just general hype, from Facebook and stuff like that. That is really fascinating to me. By the way, if you enjoy this type of content, if you're finding it useful, if you're planning to run a Kickstarter, please smash the subscribe button down below and even consider sharing it. If you find this interesting, wouldn't your friends find it interesting? For a game I've never played before, the art/theme get me in the door and mechanisms seal the deal. Okay, I agree with you 100%. This is such a hard thing to put into just one bucket. What enters the collection now is, do I get a feeling that an experience will be different or better than we play now? I am also brutal about quality and artwork because it detracts. It won't come in. Interesting. For me, it's the mechanisms of the game which determine whether I'm interested. Great, nice art and components definitely help with the staying power of a game, though. And hype, as well as theme, can attract me towards checking out a game, but the game has to stand up on its own based on the criteria mentioned above. All right. I voted mechanism, but another important thing is depth and longevity, too. And yes, I'm in the same boat. I like fewer but deeper games, so that is a big factor. All right. Art components, I think, is the #1 driving force. If it wasn't, then there wouldn't be any games on Kickstarters with minis. How many games have 300, 400, 500 plus pledges that are throwing every possible mini at you? Remember that people are collecting art, not game mechanics. Ooh. Telling me it's a solo co-op game with stick people, a deck of playing cards, and plain dice versus something like Valor and Village with minis, vibrant colors, unique color artwork as well. There's nothing else to say. I will admit that mechanisms do play a part when I open my wallet. I have to see gameplay and how it works before I buy, but it's the components that gets me to click on the page, and I think that is the hardest part. Interesting. Okay, that is really good to know. All right. So, we got scrolled all the way back up here. All right. Yep, there we go. Generally, what aspect... Oh, no, here we go. When a Kickstarter creator gives you a pie chart on the main story going over how they plan on spending the money, what do you think? All right. 1% of people hate it. So, it's not terrible. I don't care. 56% of the people love them. 21% of the people, I think that makes them look shadier. So, overwhelming majority of the people who care, 3-1. Well, I guess you got the hate it. But didn't vote for the option. I know you're thinking about it. Don't vote for this option. I know you're thinking about it. Damn you, 15% of the people throwing off my metrics. I guess I set myself up for that. So that's interesting to me as well. Most people don't care. I can see that. I don't really care. In an average month, how many Kickstarter projects do you back? Nearly half of the people say 0. 1%, or 1 out of every 3 people, back 1 a month. And that's kind of crazy to me. That's a lot of Kickstarters. That's 12 Kickstarters a year you're backing. I mean, that's for 1 out of every 3, board gamers who are at this point in the hobby where they watch YouTube videos about the board game content. Interesting. 2 to 4 games a month. 1 out of every 5 almost. Wow, that's awesome. And then 5 to 10% said how many? 5, so 2% of the people. 1 out of every 50 board gamers backs 5 to 10 a month. That is whoo. Oh, I want to go to their house for game night. Wow. All right. Running idea with the flag. Okay. Would you open to buy? Okay. Would you be, wow, apparently I forgot the word be. Would you be open to buy a more eco-friendly game at a higher cost if it was offered on a Kickstarter? So, for instance, you can have this game mass-produced and costs $25, or you can pay this other one, $33, but it's produced sustainably, yada, yada, yada. I wouldn't be willing to pay that for that extra 55% of people. Okay, so more than half. Doesn't really surprise me. Actually, I'm kind of surprised it's not even higher. So that's good. I think it's a good sign. Yes, but a very low markup was 1 out of every 5 people. I get that. I totally get that. Maybe they're not the best off, but it's like I'm still willing to pay extra because I want to help. I get that. And then 1 out of every 20 people said yes, more than a 21% markup. Interesting. Very interesting there. I mean, that's... and there was recently a Kickstarter called Earthborn, I think it was, that did something just like that, except they didn't even offer the non-eco-friendly one, and it actually did really decent business. I'm going to guess because you have 45% of people who are at least willing to listen to the idea. And that's a big chunk. That's a big chunk of the audience right there. So, very interesting. All right, let's check out the comments. I'm very, very interested. I would probably pay extra if it was manufactured in the U.S. instead of China. Okay. One day. Yeah, and I think when some rich person invests in completely automating away one of these board game factories, I think, or near automating away, where it's just a couple people working in there and then just a whole bunch of robots, I think they're going to make a decent amount of money when they do that. Making of the product in the U.S. would undoubtedly be more friendly to the environment, both in manufacturing and shipping. Yep. No, at the end of the day, it probably wouldn't be all that much different, and if it's only what it's made out of, I don't plan on throwing out any board games, even if they are horrible. Maybe you could show me how much it changed with proof. I would be more willing. Okay. And I'm in that same thing. I don't think I'd be willing to pay extra. But then again, I come from a scarcity mindset. All right. Have you backed a project on GameFound? Now, granted, this was 1 month ago, and so this one is a little bit time sensitive. But 37%. That's no small number. Because if we just look at the audience that's probably voting on this, these are people who enjoy crowdfunding, and they're slowly making the switch. 37%. They're not making the switch, but they're opening the door. What if a huge project, multi-million-dollar project, what if that Avatar RPG that's on Kickstarter right now is on GameFound instead? Like, how many, I think GameFound's on the up and up. 37%. None of your damn business. 4%. Fair enough. It's a HIPAA violation. What percentage of board games that you play would you say you dislike? Okay. So, 1 out of every 20... 0 to 5%, 40. So nearly half people say most of the time I like board games to a certain extent, and I'm actually in that as well. I would say probably once out of every maybe 20 games I really hate something. I will say though, I definitely feel like I'm getting a little bit more hard to please and critical as I get older, and I think that's just because I've played so many games, and it's like you like this game, but that game's better, and so when I don't know. So 31% said 6 to 10% of games they would say they dislike. 11 to 20%. So, wow, that stinks. 16%. I don't even know why the hell I bother anymore. And wow, 6%. So 6% of the people are just getting so burned on games. That sucks. Hopefully you find your right game for you. What is your primary purchasing method for tabletop games? More than 50%. I suppose people know what primary means. All right, online retailer, 51%. Yeah, that makes complete sense to me. Local game store, 13%. Major retail store. That's not nothing right there. That's not nothing. That's 1 out of every 50 people. Because when you see 2%, it doesn't sound much. But when you put it like that, if you just compiled every single gamer in a 1 mile radius around you, 1 out of every 50 of them gets their games primarily at a major retail store. That's really fascinating to me. 20% on Kickstarter. Wow. Okay. I thought that might be a little bit higher, actually. And then it varies. Okay. Which means they buy at a combination of these 4 places. Which, once again, major retailer store. Target, Meijer, Walmart, on the up and up. At least when it comes to board games. Internet, be my... Oh, yeah, I did that. Top 65, nope. When you back a project... what percentage of Kickstarter updates on average do you read? So 0 to 20%, 60%. So nearly 1 out of every 5 people read very, very few of them. 21 to 40% is 14%. Most popular is 81 to 100. So nearly half the people read most of them. Okay. That's good information to know. And I imagine that this one is a hard one to do as well, because I think that really depends on the updates. Like how many updates do you go through before you just say, "Oh, these updates suck. I don't care. I'm going to stop reading them now when they pop up." Like what? How? Oh, that's another poll right there. I need to remember that one. How many bad Kickstarter updates before you stop checking them? Ooh, you'll see that one on next month's. Metal Tin board games. All right, so Metal Tin board games, 8% love them, 12% like them, 32% indifferent, 28% dislike them, and 20% hate them. I'm actually annoyed you even bring them up. Wow, nearly 50% of people are like, those damn tit games. Well, the dislike them like, oh, those darn tit games. Whoa. I didn't know it was that high. I mean, I personally like tin games, but no. That looks like a big no. 48%. That's why I love this segment. What would you prefer? Where would you prefer the shipping section on a Kickstarter project to be? And once again, I rail on the industry standard, which is to bury it all the way at the bottom. It's a crucial aspect of your shopping experience. Why not put it with the rest of the shopping section by the pledges? So 22% of people said right after the pledge level tiers. 36% of people said right after the pledge level tiers plus the add-ons. So right there, that is 58% of people saying I would like it if the industry standard changed to it being up here. 58%. And then 24% said, I don't care. And then 17%, so 1 out of every 5 people agrees with the industry standard and wants the industry standard. And nearly, what is that? 50%, 58, nearly 3 out of every 5 people disagree and say they need to move it higher. So why can't we make that the industry standard? Please, oh please. I'd like US/EU shipping the price on the tiers like on that recent war game. It'd be fine with a more detailed section at the bottom if that were the case. Okay. So that's pretty much focusing on the 2 main countries that buy Kickstarter, or, well, Canada's in there as well, but interesting. Maybe it's because I live in the continental US, and thus it doesn't usually affect me much, but I honestly don't care what the shipping is at the time of the Kickstarter. I tend to just group them into my head, like, this is a couple books, so it's around about this much, this is a board game and expansion, so that much. Even with Joan of Arc being a huge box, I knew it was going to be a significant number, and had a rough idea of what would be too much. But so long as it wasn't that, I don't really care too much about it, because it wasn't like I could get the product and not pay that shipping cost. Okay. Interesting. Alright. Man, I wish you would stop making me scroll down here. Alright. Do you hate large square rule books? So you got the square boxes, you got those giant, obnoxious... this is mostly just a poll to see if people agree with me, because I hate those damn square rule booklets. Yes, they make me want to punch something. That's me. I'm in the 8%, so that's not bad. Yeah, they're annoying. So 30% of people, slightly annoyed to more. I'm indifferent, 53%. I like square rule booklets, 3%. I'm shape blind. Why do I even leave those there? Damn it, 12%. But the bottom line is here, I feel a little bit vindicated. Half the people are like, why do you care? Stop being weird. But 30%, they get me. You get me that 30%. Thank you. What is the player count you hit most when playing board games? Solo. Wow! Nearly 20%. Hot diggity dang dog. That is spectacular. And there is lots of money to be made in that solo market on Kickstarter. I tell you what, there's going to be some huge solo projects where there's just going to be a giant, elaborate plastic and wood play set you're putting together and exploring. And I think that's going to be something we're going to see pretty prevalently in the next few years. I need to put that in a fortune-telling video. 2 players, 39%, and I bet you this number was lower pre-pandemic. I bet you both these numbers were lower pre-pandemic. So 40% of people, 2 players. 3 players, 18%, 4 players, 19%, and then 5 players plus, once again, 7%. And I imagine that number will shift in the coming years. So we already did that one thing. Tonight's let's get on average. How many games do you acquire a month? So just how many games you get in your house? Most months 0. 1 out of 3 people. Most months 0. Most months 1 game. So about 12 games a year. 28%. Reasonable. Well, again, I guess everything's reasonable if you got enough cash. Most months 2 games. And that's 1 out of every 5 people. Most months 3. And then most months 4 or more. 10% of the hobby going hard right now. I love it. And as a reviewer, I obviously am in the 12%. I don't purchase them, but they come in the mail. And if I really put my nose to the grindstone, I can have many, many more coming into the mail. That's one of the cool things about the reviewers, but it's just because I know some people do that. Like, I see some people that respond to every single thing, and I can only imagine. Because I've been there, where you're getting like 10, 15, 20 games a month, and it is just, it's really stressful. It is really stressful, especially when you're just one dude in the basement. All right. Game night music. What's your ideal situation? Silence, 31%. Music, 20%. You know what? I really like that because I personally love having music on game night, and I've always felt like that was kind of odd, but 1 out of every 5 people like it. And I feel like it fills any pauses or awkward silences, or just, it can break up the mood, especially if the lyrics get funny or something like that. I love music. But then again, I listen to a lot of weird music. And then instrumental thematic music sitting at 44%, nearly half. Okay, give the people what they want. You host a game night, put on some instrumental thematic music. And that's as easy as just hopping on Spotify. Yikes, Grandpa. TV, you damn savage. 4% of you can go right off to hell. That's all I have to say to you. Just stay subscribed, but get the fuck out of here. I've got a 5,200 song Spotify playlist of the most random music across most genres. I would listen to it every second of the day if I could. I'd be listening to it right now if I wouldn't get this video taken down for copyright strikes. We love playing music that ties in thematically. I think that's really cool as well. Mostly silent, mostly play Euro, but when playing Lords of Waterdeep, I put on D&D playlists I found on YouTube. Blood Rage, I put on battle music while pillaging. Rum and Pirates, I put on Irish pub music when in a bar for some reason. Bird sounds for Wingspan, Ocean sounds for Y. That sounds awesome. I need to do that. That's really cool. Mellow Dice website has playlists for specific board games. Go check that out. mellowdice.com. Presumably. I don't know. All right. Oh, did I actually do it the right way? No, I didn't. All right, so I don't think we have too many more. Let's double check, though, because I love doing these. This is fun. What's your ideal board game getaway? Oh, no, time length. Oh, man, there's so many. Have you started reattending regularly scheduled game nights? This was 4 months ago, and no, 50%. I'd be very interested to see what that is. I'm going to ask that one again in a couple months. How long do you typically spend on a Kickstarter page before backing/leaving? 0 to 3 minutes. 1 out of every 5 people, which is why I always say that video should be tight, concise, informative, and should let me know, do I want it, can you do it, and how much is it, in about 2.5 minutes. I think that's a great time length. And right there, that's 1 out of every 5 people. That's a huge chunk of people. 4 to 6 minutes, they'll give you a little bit more time. That's 1 out of every 3 people. 7 to 10 minutes, 11 to 15, and then more than 15 minutes is still 1 out of every 4. But still very fascinating to me right there. What is your ideal time length for a board game? Once again, medium weight right about here, 60 to 120 minutes, 46%. That makes sense. This is 30 to 60 minute games, which I love those length games where they still can give you some meaty and interesting choices. Then 120 minutes, only 7%. Ideal time. This isn't the typical time you get, but your ideal time, only 7% on the heftier. Very, very interesting. I personally am in the heftier still. But I love all these, honestly. What's your ideal board game getaway? Massive convention, only 7%. Cabin in the woods with friends, 71%. That makes my heart warm. And I will say, I actually got to do a trip to a Kentucky farm last year. I know, in the middle of the pandemic, crazy enough, with our game group. And we were in the middle of nowhere. And it was great. So I get that. We played games, just like nonstop, all the time. Just had like 2 or 3 tables set up. It was great. Board Game Cruise, 9%. Smaller convention, 11%. And other, please comment below. I'm intrigued. Did a weekend at the Gamers Ranch in Missouri with my friends and the Gray Fox Game Crew. It was the last thing before COVID hit really US, and it was incredible. Yeah, the place does look really awesome. I checked it out. From a biased perspective, a public library study room with good friends for a solid 4-hour session. That also is, and that's one thing I want to do. I want to go to my local library, and let me know what you think about this idea in the comments down below. I want to set up a sign that says, hey, we're going to play a board game, and then we're going to shoot a video afterwards. So they know going in, like, hey, hopefully you're down to shoot a video, and just get, like, people who don't normally shoot YouTube videos, shooting YouTube videos, talking about board games, getting like this raw to I think that'd be fascinating. Let me know what you think about that idea. And I'll be with them too. I'll be there to like whole stream it together. Like, oh, what'd you think about this aspect of the game sort of thing. But let me know what you think about that. What do you think is the ideal board game collection size? 38%, rock on, no number is too high. I think I misspelled 2. That all happens when you nearly flunk out of high school. All right, 100 to 200, 14%. So most people, nearly 2 out of every 5 people, saying no number's too high. But then 1 out of the 5 people is like, are you kidding me? 0 to 30, you're nuts. 1 bookshelf. Okay, and hopefully we can convert these. Hopefully we can keep converting the people to go, just 1 step down. Like, we'll just get 1 more shelf. You know what? We'll just make it into a room. And then, I'm going to get a second job. How do you consume your live streams most often? YouTube, overwhelming, 67%. Take that 1 with an asterisk. You're on YouTube right now, so I guess it's just more likely to be, but still, Twitch, 1 out of every 5 pretty much. I don't do the live streams, 13%. Okay, interesting. On average, how many new to you games do you play a week? Not a month, a week. I should keep this monthly though, I think. I don't know. 0. So 50% of the people don't play anything new in a given week. 30% of people, which actually means nearly half. It's nearly a 50-50 split. 50% of people almost play a new game every week based on this polling. That's fascinating. Because while this does say 30% is 1, you add all these up because these people play more. More than 3 new games a week, 4%. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. All right. Of your games that you have expansions, what percentage of your board games do you own roughly 100% of the comments for? Promos be damned. I assume it's a low number, so it means I'm not counting promos like some specific thing, but like if you have all the Dominion boxes, or all the Pandemic expansion. I assume it's a low number, but I'm nowhere near a typical consumer. What's your most impressive game that you own everything for? And that's me trying to I should ask a question. Why am I not asking questions on all these? I quite literally rail against people all the time about not asking questions, and I'm not asking questions. You fool, Bauer. All right. 0 to 2%, so yeah, that makes sense. So only 0 to 2% of their games, they have everything. 21% of higher. That's really surprising to me. So what that means is 1 out of every 5 games that 28% of the people have are completely, they got everything for it. Which I'm wondering if that's also something that might happen when you're newer into the hobby and you're like, I love this game, I love Catan, so I want to get the expansion. Then you play through the expansion, like, I want to get the next expansion, I want to get the next expansion, I want to get the next expansion. That's an interesting one. All right. If Gen Com's... Oh, okay, so this one's so old. Got me wondering. When you see a Kickstarter game get pulled down... Okay, so here we go. And I'm gonna try and steer away from the ones that were, like, topical for the time period, because this one's asking, like, Gen Con and Essen. You know what? Let's just see... But it's still interesting, no, I guess. So, if Gen Con Origins Essence happens in 2021, and you are vaccinated, are you going? 41% of people said, yes, I'm still going. This was 5 months ago. 38% of people said no. And then 22% of people said, I'm still on the fence. And that's interesting to me. I will be at Gen Con, and I will be at Origins. If you see me, say hi. With Bloodstone raising nearly $300,000, then pulling the Kickstarter plug, it got me wondering, and I did a video on that. When you see a Kickstarter game get pulled down by the company, even though it's funded, how does it make you feel? All right, good. They're doing what is best for them / the game. 1 out of every 10 people understand and say, I get it. And the more Kickstarter critiques I do, the more I get it. Because there are so many opportunities to make so much more money on most Kickstarter pages. Just little things that you might do. Like little teeny tiny little morsel things. And the reason why I say that is because I look at so many Kickstarters and I see companies that do these little tiny things and their track records are normally so much better. They're making so much more money. They're higher on the popularity chart. They're keeping people more engaged. All right. Annoyed but you will still reback it when it relaunches, is 6%. Annoyed, and I will not back it on relaunch. So 1 out of every 5 people are just like, don't care why, don't care how, I'm out. And I understand that as well. That's a pretty big number, though. Because the bottom line is, there's so many other things competing for your attention on Kickstarter. So I get that. It depends on the circumstances of pulling the project. 3 out of every 5 people, which is a very reasonable answer as well. Others, let us know in the comments. All right. Bloodstone is the first time it's happened to a campaign I backed. I'm fine with it, I think. Hopefully it will come back to more success. Kickstarters get delayed. It's the nature of these kind of projects. If you can't handle a delay during the funding, then you're only going to get more frustrated. Interesting. They're saying, Kickstarter delays happen all the time. Normally it's in the back end, but why should we care if it's in the front end? I get that point as well. No delays is the best, of course, but just because it's delayed doesn't mean it will be bad. And I agree. They most of the time pull it up to do good things. I really don't like to see projects that are funded get canceled because they underperform their internal goal. I think it sends a really bad message that their goal isn't really their goal. Yes, I actually agree with that one too. With that being said, I think the Bloodstone project needs a considerable overhaul to make a better project. The people who complain about a campaign being canceled are most likely the same people who complain that the developer would have taken more time to make a better game they paid too much money for. You can't have it both ways. I applaud when a designer says something isn't right and tries to make a better product. If they get the funds, they should be making the game. Heck, if they don't get the funds, they should at least make copies for those who back the Kickstarter. That would be in a perfect world, but the logistics of doing that would be just insanely mind-bogglingly expensive, especially if you got close to it and you didn't get it. All right. Whew, man, this is a lot. So next month's will not be as many because I won't have as many to do. There we go. How important are nice game components to you? 28% must have. Absolute deal breaker. Okay, 1 out of every 4 people. More than that. Like them, but not necessary. Indifferent, and I prefer not nice game components. 1%. Okay. And I get that, because then the game's going to be cheaper. It's more about the mechanisms. What days do you typically browse Kickstarter? Get bet Thursday. The weekend. Shooting at 60%. Wow. Now that one's only 63 votes. I might do this one when I can get a larger sample size. I might redo some questions because I think that one, I would like to have a larger sample size than that one for sure. That's really interesting. No, this isn't the right thing. I'm really interested. What is your favorite type of media to consume? Board games, 53%. It makes sense. It's a board game channel. That one's pretty skewed. An honest poll. It's relevant to what's going on in the board game hobby right now, but this is a much more broad question as well. I'm very interested to know what people actually think. Interesting. Do you separate art from artist? AKA, if you find out something bad about a creator you enjoy, artist, actor, content creator, writer, etc., do you still consume their content? And this is actually pretty topical with the whole broken token thing going on right now. So no, I don't want to reward behavior I deem bad. 15% of the people. No, we're not going there. Let's go. Okay. 23%. Yes, it's about the product, not the person. Okay, and then 62% said, I'm in the middle. It really depends on the incidents. And I understand that. It depends on, I think, a lot of circumstances. And I should have said it depends on the circumstances instead of the incident, because the amount of time since it happened, there's a lot of other things that can factor into that. So I completely understand that. All right. So I'm 53 subscribers away from 7,000. Yeah, let's keep it going. Click on that subscribe if you want to help me get to 9,000 this year. That's my goal. Another Kickstarter-related question. Again, these are anonymous polls. I like how I stopped saying that. I'm curious, what is your average pledge level backed on Kickstarter? Do you back for the whale? Go for just the base. Thank you level. PDF. I guess I don't need all those details. The whale, I want it all. 54% of the people. And once again, this is a lower number than a lot of the other ones. So I think I might do this one in the future. Just the product game. I need to know if I like it first. PDFs, baby. 3%. Wow. That's actually more than I expected. Thanks for $1, 6%. Other, let me know in the comments. All right. I want to know for my Kickstarter segments, how do you normally navigate a Kickstarter page? Video to story, 2 out of every 5 people, and that's how I do my segment. Video straight to payment, so pagement, 15%. Story to payment, 32%. Payment to video, so they check the price first to see if the price is reasonable, then they go back over the video, and then presumably the story, which is 1 out of every 20 people. Interesting. And then payment 2, story, completely skip the video. So, let me see. Video. So that's 22% of people. No, that's 50. No. That is, wow. 40% of people who are not looking at the video. And that shouldn't surprise me. I see comments all the time about people saying, I never skip the video. Or I always skip the video. That's really fast to me. 40% of the people. Weed and board games. Do you ever mix them? FYI, this poll is 100% anonymous, by the way. Just very interested in helping shake the stigma, and I'm putting a good deal of thought about helping launch a marijuana enthusiast board game convention. Which, by the way, if you are interested in doing something with that, please reach out to me. Let me know, because I think that's just an underserviced part of our market. And obviously, it would have to be in a state that's legal, and you'd have to find the proper accommodations and whatnot. But so 20% of the people, 1 out of every 5. That's not nothing. That is not nothing. No, 50% of people. Let's see. So do you ever mix them? So so that's 1 out of every 5 people who play board games and do the weed. That's not about the convention necessarily. 50% of people do not smoke. Yes, but I don't like when others do it. So they're saying, I can handle my weed. They can't handle their weed. Get the hell off my glue, man, while you're high. No, but I don't mind if others do it. So 1 out of every 4 people are like, I don't have a problem with it. If there was a local gaming convention near me, I wouldn't really care if everybody was high. At least that's what I read on that. So that's 1 out of every 4. So that right there is 44% of the people. And then I'm too high for this poll. Ask me later. So that's 50% of the people, damn it. Now it's 99 votes, so it's a smaller sample size, but that's 50% of the people saying, I'm not against this. Woo! Times they be a-changing, baby. Salute. What's your preferred deck building strategy? Very in the weeds here. Attack. Damage to everyone's stupid face. 15%. Trash early and often like Oscar. That's what I do. 30%. Flexible cards. A bit more. A bit of that. Okay. All right. Drinks on the table while board gaming. Yay or nay? Also, does the type of liquid matter? Yay. Comfort before anything else. 23% of the people. Nearly 1 out of 4 people. That is not me. I am a drink. I am on that. Nay, keep that the heck away from my games. Yay, but with an exception. A bottle, spill-proof cup, etc. 33%, so those are the reasonable people, not like me. Nay, I'm not a barbarian. I have cup holders. Ooh, fancy you. I like to dump the drink on the table and then suck it up. Oh, I crack myself up. My wife always says that. She'll just catch me laughing, and it'll just because I'll have some idea. Okay, ADHD's fun. All right, what's your favorite mechanism? Okay. Biggest one, deck building. Crushing it. Worker placement, 34%. Social deduction. Interesting. All right, large pictures. We'll do a couple more because I noticed the sample size is getting smaller and smaller, and that just makes it, I think, a lot less useful. The Board Game Fairy visits and leaves one game and all of its expansions, promos, spin-offs, premium upgrades, box inserts, whatever. What tabletop game you pick it? Pandemic. Taking 1 out of every 3 other than Ticket to Ride, Catan, Carcassonne, Dominion. And I went with lighter stuff there. I think when I was doing the poll, I was trying to have names that I thought would tickle that YouTube algorithm and get more votes. This is when I was kind of experimenting. You can see we're nearly near the bottom of the page with this new polling thing here because I really do love it. I think it's so fun. And I'll actually have the link below because I swear this thing is so hard to find. YouTube is like just... It's only on a phone most of the time, but if you click on the link that's like first thing down here, you can actually vote on some of these polls and comment on them and do all that good stuff. With Origins moving to late September, are you planning on visiting Ohio to get your board game fixed? And so this was 6 months ago, and I got to ask a question related to that. But I think that's where we're going to cut it off. But that is this new segment, Bauer Polls. So if you have a question that you would like to see in a poll, please post it in the comments down below. It makes my life way easier. And hey, I'll even name drop you on there. I'll mention your name if you would like. So please be sure to do that because it makes it so easier. And it's going to make it more polls and more excitement. And this is how we generate buzz about our YouTube page and get to that 9,000 subscriber goal that I have going on. But as always, thanks for your time, YouTube. Bye-bye. Tink.